CYOL 208.
You're listening to the Create Your Own Life podcast, the show to help you create life on your terms. 3 days a week, Jeremy Ryan Slate interviews the most successful people in business and in life to help you create the life you want to create. Welcome to Life Creation Nation.
Hey guys, are you looking to get featured on top-rated podcasts just like this one? GetFeatured.com is the place to go if you're looking to become a featured podcast guest. The process is awesome. We help you to become an amazing guest, get you prepped for the right show, and then when interview time comes, we help you to promote. Check that out if you're looking to build massive brand exposure today. It's www.getfeatured.com. This episode is sponsored by Audible.com. Guys, Audible is one of the best places to get and listen to audiobooks. I know for myself, I am a huge audiobook listener, especially when I'm working on this podcast and all other sorts of things. There are so many different books that you can check out over there. Right now, I'm listening to James Altucher's book, Choose Yourself. I was actually listening to it while I was working today, so that is my recommendation of a book to check out right now. And in this episode, you're going to find out a big announcement that I have going on with James as well. So to get your free audiobook, to get James Altucher's Choose Yourself audiobook for free, head over to jeremyryanslate.com/book and sign up for your free Audible trial and get your free book. Hey, what's up, everybody? Jeremy here, and welcome back to the latest episode of the Create Your Own Life podcast. Extremely excited for today's interview because this is actually an in-person interview I got to do with jazz musician Reggie Pittman, and we're going to dive into what his creation process is like, what it was like having to have a job while doing his music career in order to make things work, and what it's really like to chase that art form and create. So I really had a lot of fun with this, guys. If you are somebody that is really looking to make it as a professional musician, this interview is for you. And also in line with live interviews, guys. For those of you guys in the New York City area, I have a huge announcement. I'm going to do a live in-person interview with James Altucher at the Stand Up New York Comedy Club on October 17th. Tickets are on sale for $50. The link will be up for that very, very soon. But if you want to get on the waiting list to be one of the first to get those tickets, I've got a special link set up for you guys of jeremyryanslate.com/Altucher, and that'll also be in the show notes if you guys are having some spelling issues like I do sometimes. That's jeremyryanslate.com/Altucher. Come out with us on October 17th and watch me do a 1-hour live interview with James. In addition, we will have a hour-and-a-half comedy show and some networking and things like that, and also a chance to do some Q&A with James as well. So guys, I'm really, really excited for that one. jeremyryanslate.com/Altucher. Be sure to check that out. Also, guys, if you have not subscribed to the show yet, be sure not to miss a new episode. Head over to jeremyryanslate.com/iTunes or /Stitcher or /Google Play and subscribe today and don't miss a single new episode. Guys, without further ado, let's get into this interview with Reggie Pittman. Hey, Life Creation Nation, Jeremy here, and I'm excited to be actually doing another in-person interview. Though you guys don't get to really be with me on these, it's a much different experience to get to hang out with somebody. And the thing I really love about having a podcast called Create Your Own Life is I interview people from all different walks of life, musicians, artists, actors. And today we get to interview a really high caliber musician. He has played with many big names. His name is Reggie Pittman. Reggie, welcome to the Create Your Own Life podcast.
Hey, thanks a lot, man. Thanks a lot, Jeremy.
It's great to have you here, man. And I just want to know first off the bat, I guess it's a little jumping into things, but what got you into music? What was that thing that made you decide, that's what I want, man?
Well, I really didn't say that's what I want. What happened is my mom is a piano player. She passed 3 years ago. But my mom was a piano player, and she would just play in the morning, oh, what a beautiful morning. She would play and sing. She played for our church back in Cleveland, Ohio, my hometown. And what happened was we just had music around the house. I'm the youngest of 5, and we all had to play an instrument. So I started at 5 years old. And when my older sister started at 13 or something. So I always had it around me. I started on piano at 4 or 5. French horn in fourth grade, and then I went to trumpet. So now trumpet is my voice.
And was there somebody that like you looked at that made you kind of think of, man, he's cool. I want to be a trumpet player. Was that kind of something you came to on your own?
There was a local guy back in Cleveland named Kenny Davis. There's a guy in New York City named Kenny Davis too. But the Kenny Davis trumpet player in Cleveland was my idol. I looked up to him. I remember seeing him down in the square in downtown Cleveland, and I just said, man, I really want to be like that. And then later, Freddie Hubbard, a famous trumpet player, was my idol. He's from Indianapolis, but he lived in New York City for years.
Cool. I've always been a Louis Armstrong fan myself.
Louis Armstrong,
I have a big appreciation for that.
I was listening to White Christmas by Louis Armstrong. He doesn't play trumpet on it,
right?
But he sings on it, and I was just listening to how he phrases and what he does. So It's just so musical.
He does that voice.
I see trees of green.
There it is. So you made that decision that like trumpet was the thing for you, and then where did you take it from there? Did you start playing in some bands or things like that, or or was it more of a solo artist type thing? Like, what was the artistry like?
Well, when I was in junior high, which they call middle school now, when I was in junior high, seventh grade, myself, a friend named Tyrone Vernon, and he had two brothers, so it was the Vernon brothers. He had a cousin, and I was the only one that wasn't a relative that was in the band. So it was called Final Results. That was my first band in the seventh grade, and we would play locally. And then I went to a group called the Metronomes that played a lot. And then I went to college, which was probably the best decision because it broadened my horizons, not only educationally but socially, and just overall, it made me a better person. When I finished that, I went back to my hometown, stayed there about 5 years, and was doing great, playing for a lot of the talent that came to town, the OJs, Aretha Franklin, Joe. What's my man's name that worked with the Count Basie orchestra? Can't think of his last name right now. Anyway, great singer. So I did that, and in '89 I decided to move to New York. I moved to New York in '89. Bought a co-op in Brooklyn in Park Slope in 1989.
What's a co-op, if you don't mind me asking?
A co-op is like a condo.
Okay.
Except it's a cooperative where everyone owns shares in the property.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I borrowed money from my mom, and I bought a co-op and moved my family there. And in '89, that was '89. I before I had a place to stay, before we actually even moved in the place, I was working with Lionel Hampton, and we were going all over Europe and all over the place. And from there, I went to kind of moving forward here, but I'm
that's fine.
I went from Lionel Hampton's band to a Broadway show. That was great. I'm going to tell a little bit of that story. I was in Seattle, Washington.
Sure.
Right? And my sister lives out in Tacoma, who's a great cook. So my sister had some food. I wound up feeding some of the guys, and I was rooming with a guy named Marshall McDonald, a sax player who's from the New York City tri-state area. Well, the tri-state area. New York City's not a tri-state. Anyway, I was called to do a show. I was already on the gig with Lionel Hampton, and they said, "Oh, we want you to start tomorrow." I'm like, "No, we want you to audition tomorrow." I said, "Listen, I'm on a job, on the West Coast." So what wound up happening? I said, "No, I'm not coming to audition. I know the guys in the band. Why don't you just hire me? Just hire me, and then I'll fly back." So they said, "Okay, we'll call you back, or we'll let you know." I was so sad all night long. I was like, "Oh man, I blew the gig. I messed around and talked myself out of it." So they called me the next morning. I played that night with Lionel. They called me the next morning. "Hey, listen, we have a ticket for you.
Wow.
We want you to be in the show." And so what happened was I packed my bags. Lionel was extremely upset with me. And we since patched things up. He's no longer with us, and I did a Broadway show, and then things just kept getting better from there.
That's cool. And then what was that like playing on Broadway? Because I imagine it must be a different experience than like what you're used to, more like a club type environment, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think I take the jobs a little different than a lot of guys. When I did Broadway, at that time I'd been playing, like I said, since I was 5.
Right.
It was kind of like another job to me. It was a great job. And it changed my life. So it wasn't really just another job, but I treated it as every job I do, no matter what it is, I treat it as it's the best job that I have, and I'm going to make this the best opportunity for myself and for the audience members. So wherever I play, we're playing at Mexicali Live tonight, but wherever I play, every night is as 100% important. It has my total attention, and I want to make sure that I vibe with the musicians on stage, as well as make sure the club owner is happy. Usually they like to make some money,
right?
And just make sure that the audience members leave away with something that they didn't come with.
Sure. And was there somebody that instilled that in you? Because that's a pretty powerful viewpoint that not a lot of people actually have, going past even music.
I think I learned a lot. There's 4 people that I really attribute my success to.
Sure.
And I say that modestly, success, because we can all define that independently. Sure. My mother, who was, as I said, the piano player of the family, and she just made all of us stay together, and we did a lot of things together. We would take a lot of vacations. My father, from his work ethic, he would work every day, and he would he took us to church, and which I thought he was the mean guy to take us to church. But I appreciate it now because I play at church. I know a number of gospel songs only because I was forced to go as a child. But that's a good thing. And then I have my college teacher at Kent State University in Kent, Ohio. He was Harry Herforth, who recently passed, and we're doing a tribute and scholarship event for him on Wednesday, August 9th, 2017. So if you're in Cleveland, make sure you come out. We're doing 2 events. Wednesday, August 9th, 2017, make sure you come out. We're going to be at the Bop Stop, which is part of, I think it's part of Cleveland State University and also part of the Music Settlement. So I'm working with Rico Richmond with that. So we're doing a big scholarship fundraiser for that. So that's Harry Herforth, and then Marcella Marcella Chapman McElroy.
Right.
Caffey. Her last name is Caffey now. I'm sorry, Marcy. I call her Marcy.
Right.
So Marcy Caffey was the piano player in church that I grew up with, and she would just let me sit right next to her with my trumpet. And like I said, my father made me come, and I just learned so much from her. I probably learned, I learned so much from her, not just about the songs, but how to play, when to play, what to play. So, I work with some singers, and they're like, man, like, how do you play with, I said, I've been doing it since I was about 14. So,
right.
So you learn as you go.
And have you found, like, well, first off, do you still play piano now?
Yes, I've always had a piano in my house. I had, during Sandy, my house had flooded, and my piano had a upright piano, and it had flooded, so it was rotted out from the water. And it was the first time in my life I didn't have a piano in my home, and I felt like a limb was missing. I felt like I didn't have an arm. I felt like something was missing. And I finally got a piano, thank God, from Bill Mooring, a great friend. That's a story in itself, how I got it. And he gave it to me. But it's a wonderful piano. So now I feel fulfilled again.
Cool. And the reason I ask that is because I know, for myself, I spent a lot of my time playing bass, and a lot of that has transitioned to what I've done as a drummer. Okay. And have you found that kind of, some of those skills you learned as a piano player, maybe transitioned more to playing trumpet, or is that a totally different animal? Well,
as far as musically, I don't really think of myself just as a trumpet player. I think of myself as a piano player that actually plays trumpet. All right. So I play trumpet as if it's like a piano. So I don't try to make it brassy and percussive, although I can if I need to, especially if it's a salsa band or something like that. But music is universal. So whatever your voice is, whether it's your singing or the bass or the drums or the trumpet, then you need to make sure that fits in whatever musical environment that's required.
Totally. And in terms of I guess, musical influence, who would you say are the biggest ones you've looked to for your inspiration and your style?
Well, locally, as far as people that I knew, my trumpet teacher, Harry Herforth, my mom, Reggie Pittman, and then internationally, Freddie Hubbard, who was my idol, and I had a chance to play with him and meet him. And so Freddie Hubbard. Then I also like Art Tatum, wonderful piano player. There's a new guy who's not extremely new now, but Nicholas Payton, a wonderful trumpet player out of New Orleans. So it's a lot of people that I like. Wynton, of course, is a trumpet player who's done a lot musically and educationally. So there's a lot of people. I'd have to mention Charlie Parker, alto sax player. So, and then, there's non-jazz guys, Maurice Andre, trumpet player, classical guy who I really admired. There's so many. I'll kind of stop there.
Well, I have to say, like, not that I'm a great guitar player, but in terms of this is somebody you'd probably be familiar with. For myself, I've always kind of looked at with a level of admiration at like Derek Trucks and Susan Tedeschi. Mm-hmm. I know you've done stuff with the Allman Brothers too, right?
Right, yes. I work with Jaimoe, the drummer, the founding member of the Allman Brothers band, who's a great friend and also a wonderful drummer. And we're playing once a month at the Iridium. That's going to be January 18th. So if you're around, January 18th, a Wednesday, at the Iridium, which is on 51st and I believe that's Broadway, the Iridium, IRIDIUM, Iridium Jazz Club. Make sure you come out. Jaimoe's Jazz Band. And from playing with Jaimoe, what happened was I was able to work with the Allman Brothers, work with Derek, work with Warren. Derek. Oh, yes.
Oh, that's awesome. He's a slide guitarist. I just love that sound, man.
Derek is a guitarist. He's a musician. He doesn't only play slide.
Yeah, well, that's my favorite thing that he does. So
yes, I can see. But Derek, if you just go to, like, I don't know if you ever went to the Beacon when they used to do the shows. They used to do, oh, man.
No, I
haven't.
Didn't go to the Beacon? I've seen him when he was here in Jersey, so,
Jersey is great, but the Beacon is phenomenal. So I was there at the last show, but I would go every year. And just to hear those guys, Warren and all the guys, Butch, all of them, O'Teal, what happened was they play the Allman Brothers music, Greg Allman, of course, wonderfully, but they're so in depth of music, so they have a depth of musical knowledge, so they can take the music anywhere.
Sure.
And it's just wonderful to be with musicians like that, and it's fortunate in my life that I'm around a lot of musicians that are actually professionals.
Sure. Well, I think you mentioned Greg Allman. We remember Duane Allman back in the day. I think a lot of people don't really remember that he was actually, the big guitarist for Derek and the Dominoes, and I really think he on that album made Clapton a way better guitarist than he probably even was qualified to be.
Right. So right. Well, Eric Clapton has come into his own, obviously.
Right.
But Duane Allman, for those that don't know, passed in the early 70s. He was around 24 years old.
It was a motorcycle accident.
Yeah, it was a motorcycle accident where he hit the back of a truck down in Macon, Georgia. And what happened was the guys, I don't think it's a gig or a place we ever go where his name doesn't come up.
Right.
And Jaimoe says he thinks about him every day. So what happened was that Duane's legacy is basically carried through the Allman Brothers. And although he didn't see the fruition, he planted the seed.
Sure.
And the seed now is a wonderful garden of music.
That's awesome. Well, in terms of like other artists that you've played with, who's I guess been some of the most interesting ones you feel like you've played with as an artist? Because maybe there's ones that aren't as big a name, but they're ones that like really let you be an artist and really create. Have there been like certain ones out there like that?
Well, as an artist, when I first started out, I really was in awe of playing with Aretha Franklin.
You played with Aretha?
Yes. So that was probably about 8, 9, 10 times now. So it was just, I was in awe of that. We played one time in New York City down at Cipriani's down in Wall Street area. And it was a private party, banking party, So I was in the band, and she just went to the piano. She's like, "Okay, I'm going to play something for you all." She sat down at the piano and played for like 45 minutes and sang, and I was like, "Oh, okay." It's not. She played and sang. For 45 minutes, I think if I did 5 minutes, I'll be happy. But so Aretha would be one. Phil Woods, I think I did a thing with him way back. That was really nice. Like I said, I sat in with Freddie Hubbard. That was a wonderful experience. It's It's a whole lot of folks. I had the pleasure of working with Sarah Vaughan. That was great. Had a pleasure of playing a solo at Carnegie Hall. That was phenomenal. Let's see. I learned a whole lot from playing with brass fantasy with my man, trumpet player. I was just about to say his name. With the Art Ensemble of Chicago, Lester Bowie. So that was phenomenal. I mean, yes, the list is great, and I'm happy that I do what I enjoy.
Sure,
and I teach as well, so I'm able to convey those lessons to the students.
Sure. And I guess this next question I have for you is kind of a difficult one, because I know even like, as for myself, being somebody that just, I write a lot. I've written a lot of articles and I've written a book and stuff like that. I don't really have a method to what I do. It just kind of happens. But as an artist, do you have like a process for yourself of what it's like creating a piece of music, or do you have like maybe a notepad or something, or like what's that process of creating music like for you?
Oh, that's a great question, Jeremy. the process of creation. It's not, for me, it's not a set process. Right. It kind of comes as it comes. If I'm writing a song, generally I sit down at the piano and I write the song. So a lot of times when I bring the music to the band, it's the first time I'm actually playing it on a trumpet. Wow. So they're like, "Oh, you don't know it?"
So you don't write as much music on your trumpet then? You write it mainly on piano?
I don't write any music on the trumpet.
Wow, that's incredible.
I write as I was saying earlier, I really think of myself as a trumpet player, as a piano player that happens to play trumpet. Not a great piano player, but I like to hear all the chords, and I don't want to just know my part. I want to kind of know as many parts, hopefully everybody's part, but at least as many parts as possible. So the creation process for me is starting at the piano and kind of really getting some chords and a melody, and I might do some lyrics. We have Jaimoe's Jazz Band has an album out, Renaissance Man, that I have a song on. I have another CD out with Loren Daniels. It's called the Pittman Daniels Quartet. That CD has been out a little while. We have a new one coming out called Smile Essence, and that's coming out in 2017. So look for that. Please go to our website, reggiepittman.com. You can check that out there. And then I've been writing some books as well. Mm-hmm. So I have actually a few books coming out. One is called Words of Wisdom, which really wasn't intended to be a book. Mm-hmm. What I would do is I would post things online on social media, and people were like, you need to think about publishing this. So I would just read things. Right. So I have a book of 365 Words of Wisdom.
Wow.
And so that's coming out. I have a new book about how to be a successful musician in New York City. So, it's a lot of projects. And as you know, being in the New York area, you have to be well-versed in being multidimensional. Right. And what happens is that creates success for you.
Sure. And I guess kind of going back to that creation method, do you have like I guess you probably get your ideas here and there. Do you have some way, like, let's say you're like out somewhere, do you like kind of keep a running tab of ideas? Do you like record something on your phone just so you don't forget it? Like, because I know sometimes we get this idea and we could never think of it again. Do you have like some way to keep track of that stuff for yourself?
Usually I write it down.
Okay.
I'm old school. I have a manuscript and a piece of paper. I teach a technology class, and I always tell them.
And you're not technical?
Well, no. I actually have a degree in technology, which I never talk about. So you can erase that part. Anyway, a graduate degree. So from NYU. So, and I'm proud to say that. But my point is, I learned when I was doing technology and specifically music technology, is that technology is really only as good as the person using it and the machinery. Mm. So if you lose all of your data in the machine, it doesn't mean that the person that created it loses the thought. Right. But if you know what you know from the technical end, then you lost your thought and your data.
Right.
So I always teach my students, you need to know how to write things down because one day your computer's going to crash. You're going to be in a situation where you need it. I've been in those situations.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have too.
Me too.
Yes.
I have everything backed up like 4 times.
You have to have it backed up. And then sometimes I was in a concert one day and I had everything on a disc. I recorded everything on a disc and the machine broke.
Wow.
Like 5 minutes, right? 5 minutes at the start of the concert, within the first 5 minutes. So I went to the piano, I conducted the choir, and I played, But if I didn't know how to play, then the concert would have been a disaster. And it turned out being better because what happened was it made the everyone in the choir pay more attention because instead of having this nice soundtrack, they had me at the piano and live, and that's tough anyway. But to conduct, so my point is. As far as creation, as far as technology, what I usually do is I write everything down using manuscript paper, and then I have GarageBand on my phone. I'll just create a little thing there. But most of the time I just write it down because I'm not a product of cell phones. I kind of grew up right before that generation. So although I love technology, I still write things down and I back it up. And I tell everyone, when you lose your information, call me. I'll have it.
Right. Well, it's funny too, though, being somebody that, I did computer programming really young, like I've grown up with it, but like, I still feel like the process of getting that thought down for me, I have to write it on paper because it takes too long to get it into my phone. You know what I mean?
Analog. I had a discussion. You're right. I had a discussion.
Like, well, I gotta go here and do this.
It's analog versus digital.
Right.
Digital is built on top of analog, and analog will never go away. Like, the air and the trees and everything, is analogous, but digital is it's snippets of life, it's snippets of sound, it's snippets of music. And what happens is sometimes you might miss a one, if you miss one bit in a string of 1,000 bits, then it's going to be off,
right?
So it throws everything off in that string. So what happens is if it's analog and it's just on a tape, or even if it is on a CD, but what happens is then it's natural. It's more natural sounding. So you're right. And so I have a question for you.
Sure. I feel like we went very meta on this.
Yes, sir. Yeah. Maybe we need to come back, man. We need to come back. Keep it simple, man. Keep it simple. So I didn't know you played much because I know
I haven't played as much in years because with being in an apartment and everything now, I just you don't have as much room. So I'm looking into getting a digital drum kit, and that's going to be kind of going back for me to get me moving again. It's been probably 5 or 6 years since I've actually played. Okay,
but then you have a lot of kits that you can use on the computer. But it is different than a physical.
It doesn't feel the same. Doesn't sound the same.
It doesn't feel the same. Yeah. As far as I played trumpets that are really like computers. And it's a totally different method of playing. So it's not even really should be called a trumpet. It's really a computer.
Yeah.
But I do real estate too. So when you want to buy that house, come to me. Come to me. That's on my other website, sure. Moundtan.com. So MOUNDTAN.com. Well, so please that's other information. I'm with Group 26 right now, so I want to make sure I shout out to my real estate company.
Sure. Well, it's funny though because you mentioned we've talked about musical influences, and for me as a drummer, it's just been very different. Like I've influences for me have been a band called Neural Milk Hotel. I don't know if you ever heard of them. The Bravery, Tool. Danny Carey is an amazing drummer so it's a lot of very obscure kind of alternative indie type bands that have been more of an influence for me as a drummer.
Well, independent music is really big now. Yeah. CD Baby has made a living on independent music, which is where you can get our CD as well. But I think there's a lot of musicians that are never recognized as far as popularity that we come across. There's a guy I worked with when I first moved to New York, Chris Albert, trumpet player. Phenomenal trumpet player, but he's musicians know him, jazz musicians know him. but a lot of people don't know who he is. I'm working with a bass player tonight, Gene Torres, wonderful bass player, played on a ton of albums. He's known through musicians, but he's not known through other circles. The singer is phenomenal, Bobby Harden. We're doing that Mexicali Live, and let's see. There's just so many people that are really, really good musicians that you just don't hear about. You know,
Sure.
One guy that plays with the Lincoln Center Band, Vincent Gardner, trombone player. He's kind of known, but you just run across guys that are just phenomenal musicians. I teach with a guy named David Wofford, who's a bass player, who's a phenomenal bass player, and he teaches regular grade.
Sure. Well, it's funny too, though, because I feel like a lot of these like really great musicians don't always end up being the ones in the super popular bands, like Joey Satriani, for example. Like he got popular, but he was actually Kirk Hammett from Metallica's guitar teacher before he even got super famous. And it doesn't always happen that the best musicians end up getting out there and getting known as well.
Some of the best musicians actually don't even pursue music.
Really?
There's a number of people that.
Why would you say that is? Like, why would you say
financial? Because it's hard to make a living as a musician.
Okay.
I mean, I do real estate too, but it's not because I just love to sell houses or anything. I really invest. So the issue is, it's financial. So you can be a wonderful musician and be broke, because you're reaching a level of artistic talent that's sometimes not appreciated. Art Tatum, that I mentioned earlier, from what I heard, was playing in a local hotel bar, toward the end of his life. This phenomenal guy that who he should have been one of the richest guys in the world because of his artistic knowledge. Charlie Parker, who never really had financial success. J.S. Bach, people don't even realize sometimes that, it's not just a genre, it's the music itself. He wasn't really popular till like 200 years after his death. Right. So it's it's a lot of people, my original statement was a lot of people don't pursue music because of the financial hardships. I was talking to a lawyer the other day. It's kind of weird how that happened. She ran into my car. Oh no, let me get this right. I ran into her car. I like my original statement. She ran into my car, and then she wound up doing. She was an entertainment lawyer, and we wound up doing some business together because she was a singer. And I was like, well, why don't you sing? And her statement was the same thing. I can't make a living at it.
Sure.
So it's tough, but it's very rewarding for those that are younger, for the younger audience, for those that are interested in pursuing a career in music. I say definitely do it, but you need to understand the business. The business is really crucial, because, I'll play a job and the guy that hired me is like, well, how much are we making? Wait a minute. You hired me and you're asking me, how much are we making? I said, well, I know how much I'm making. And then, we went to Haiti. I went to Haiti with a Haitian band, Phantom. And the guy was like, I'm going to leave his name out. He was like, I heard you're making more than me. I'm like, well, we all have the opportunity to negotiate our own deals. So I negotiated my deal, and
you just got to do a better job yourself.
Yeah. So he's like, "Well, how much you making?" I was like, "Dude, man, like you should have. We could have talked about that before. If you want me to be your representative, But the business, I think, gets lost with the art, and I think a lot of people don't respect the business enough in order to understand how to make a living. And it's tough. Yeah. It's tough. It's very tough. I don't want to make it seem like it's easy. It always will be kind of tough because you have a lot of, the supply is larger than the demand.
Sure. And it's funny because you mentioned like not getting famous until your genius sometimes being recognized later on. This is a conversation I had with Loren a couple weeks ago, which we'll actually get into in a couple minutes, your album that you and Loren are putting out. But You're familiar with Leonard Cohen, right? The singer Leonard Cohen. His song Alleluia, which has become really famous in the 90s. It became really famous in the 90s, but he wrote it in the mid 70s.
Wow.
And he wrote it for Columbia Records. They rejected it, said it was the most horrible thing they'd ever heard. And he took it and started playing it in live shows and slowed it down and made it like really like depressing. And happened to be in the audience, J.J. Cale happens to be in the audience that wrote a bunch of songs for Clapton. So he hears the song and he says, hey, can I do a cover of the song? So he does the cover of the song and it gets put on this French single issue compilation album that goes in a 99-cent basket here in New York City.
Wow.
And a wandering musician that was house sitting for people to pay his bills happens to pick up this album. He's like, wow, that's a great song. So then he does a cover of the cover and he's playing in a club down in Greenwich Village, and the Columbia Records people are there again, and they go, wow, this is the greatest song we've ever heard, because it was the cover of the cover of the cover of this song.
Wow.
And then this guy that happens to be the only hit he ever does, and in the mid-90s, he's in a car accident, and he passes away. They play this song on the radio as his one hit. Leonard Cohen hears it again, does a cover of the cover of the cover of the cover, and we got the modern song. So It's like this song, he talked to Bob Dylan about it, and he said, that's a great song, Leonard. How long did it take you to write? And he goes, I told a little white lie when I told him 2 years, because Bob Dylan said he could write a song in like 15 minutes. He said the song took 17 years to make the final version of, and it took all these different people writing it. So it like you're saying, it can take a long time to get noticed in that way. Especially with crazy circumstances like that.
Yeah, and it's two parts of music. You have the art part of it, and you have the entertainment.
Sure.
So if you're just doing it for entertainment purposes, and you really want to just kind of shake your behind and get drunk and just be in a club and go see a big concert, then you can make a lot of money. That's usually not a career. That's usually just a cycle that might last 3 years. But as an artist, you can create great art. You might not be recognized by a large majority, but you can have a longer career. So it really depends on what you're trying to do. A lot of people combine the two. You do a little bit of entertainment, you do some art. So if you can combine the two, you'll have a lot better chance at longevity. Sure.
Well, we mentioned that whole thing coming from a conversation with Loren. Now, you and Loren Daniels for the Pittman Daniels Quartet have been playing together for a number of years. And you have a new album coming out. What was that process of creating Smile Essence like for you guys? And I know you have an Indiegogo campaign going up relatively soon as well.
Yeah, we have an Indiegogo campaign going, so please check it out. It's Pittman Daniels Quartet. So just go and donate to the cause, because it's an artistic endeavor. And we're looking to raise money for it. Smile Essence is primarily a quartet that we've been working locally here in Teaneck at Classic Quiche. And we have the opportunity to develop a lot of songs. Loren composes a lot of songs.
Wow.
So I think we have 11 songs on the CD. And
so is he more the one coming with that piano track and then you're laying down the trumpet tracks?
Oh no, we do everything live.
Creative music?
We go into the studio and we lay everything down. We do about 2 or 3 takes.
Wow.
Not too many overdubs. And but the majority of the compositions are Loren's, and then I have 1 or 2 on there.
Wow.
But he writes he writes 90% more songs than I do, so he has 90% more songs on there. And Loren is a wonderful piano player, great friend. I like to just take a moment to mention the guys that are on the CD. Mm-hmm. Jonathan Peretz is our drummer, wonderful guy. Mike Richmond is also a bass player, and Mike is a guy that, speaking of unknowns as far as popularity. Mm-hmm. People in the industry know Mike Richmond.
Right.
I heard about him before he joined our quartet. Oh, man, Mike, yeah, he worked with all these people. So when I was going to meet him, I'm like, man, what do I say? And now he's a great friend. And it's funny how, and you probably can attest to this, people that you really admire, and then once you start to work with them, even if it's through a podcast or through a band, they wind up becoming friends. I have a lot of people. I work with 100 Black Men in New York City too. So I have all these guys I looked up to, and now they're my friends.
Right.
So it's just wonderful to expand your career, whatever that might be, whether it's music or whatever type of business it is, art or a regular day job. and get to know the people, the best people in your profession. And you'd be surprised if you really work at your craft, how they'll encourage you, to those things. So I'm pretty sure you have a lot of stories like that.
Sure, yeah. And that'll all be linked up in the show notes of this episode. So before we come in for a landing, we're going to have some rapid fire questions. Are you ready?
We'll see.
This episode is brought to you by assistagram.us. If you guys have not heard previous interview on this show with Zach Benson of assistagram.us, I've had some amazing help from him the last couple months in being stuck at about 16,000 in my Instagram following. And if you really want to create a lot of traffic for the show like I've done a lot of it through Instagram. Working with Zach has been amazing, guys, over at assistagram.us. He's helped me go from that 16,000 to where we were stuck to now 23,600. And he's doing some cool stuff over there. He has somebody on his team that's managing my account, so doing posting for me and posting at the correct times of the day. And posting the correct type of content, working with the correct type of accounts, shout-outs, all that kind of stuff. And I don't have to do it because Assistagram has been doing it for me. You do see some of my posts over there every so often, but it's great to have them doing that and helping me grow that account by not really having to have my attention on it. Because as a busy entrepreneur, we end up doing so many different things that I really don't have time to sit and remember to post on Instagram since I can't really schedule things. So guys, you can check them out over at assistagram.us, and there'll be a link in the show notes to this episode as well, but assistagram.us. You are selecting to give a commencement speech. What topic do you cover and why?
Health, success, love, happiness. Why? Because all of those things are intertwined, and if one is missing, you're out of balance. So I love to try to have that in my life every day.
Got it. What about one quote that you've kind of leaned on through your journey?
One quote is, let me see. It's best when opportunity meets preparation. So, you can have a wonderful opportunity present itself, but if you're not prepared, then it's a wasted chance. So
right.
So whenever your opportunity arises, be ready.
Love it. What about one book that's had a big effect on your life?
I have a lot of books that I read. I think it's very important to be literate. The one book I like currently is by Andrew Weil, Weil. And it's called Spontaneous Healing.
Oh, Dr. Andrew Weil.
Yes,
I love him. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
You say Weil, I say Will. You
right,
say
you
potato,
say
potato.
tomato.
Yeah, but so I never knew. So that guy. So it's called Spontaneous Healing, and it really deals with mental images, really not just medical healing,
right.
holistic health, but how to heal yourself holistically.
Cool.
Yeah.
You can pick one trumpet player, living or dead. Who do you pick?
Freddie Hubbard.
All right.
That's an easy one.
That was fast.
Yeah, man.
Well, people have very different definitions of success, but if you got to define success for yourself, what does it mean?
Success is a very broad term, and a lot of people think of success as far as money and finances. And I've developed a thing of success that I usually have as part of my life, that is my lifestyle, which is 5 things: health, happiness, love, success, and power. I just added the power recently. But all those things have to be intertwined, and health, you have to be healthy, physically healthy, mentally healthy, emotionally, and so on. Happiness, life isn't really all about work.
Right.
At some point you need to just do something that you like. I like to go down by the water and just sit down and just look at the water, and I'll bring my trumpet and I'll play a little bit and just have somebody there with me that's close, whether it's my son or my girlfriend or whoever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So happiness, love, you just have to have people around you that you feel you love, and it's even better when they love you back. Success is really, for me, about doing things I enjoy doing, being around people that I can enjoy their success as well as they enjoy my success. So it's a mutual admiration society. And then power. I added power only because I've had the other three, thank God. And the power is really just about being able to get things done and being able to make one phone call and make sure that it gets done without going through a chain of a secretary through the middle management. So that's a progression that I'm still working on, and it's going well. So I would say those 5 things.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you hanging out with us today, Reggie. I know we usually keep these interviews at 30 minutes, but I've been so intrigued. I feel like I've been
how long have we gone?
Peppering you with questions.
How long have we gone, man?
I think we've been like 45 or something.
What?
Like that.
We did 45 minutes? I thought we did about 20 minutes, man. You're good, man. Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you hanging out with us today. If our listeners want to connect with you and learn more about what you're doing, where's the best place for them to go?
Well, there's a few things you can go to. I have 2 websites. My personal website is reggiepittman.com. That'll give you some music information. My business website is moundtan.com. We can spell it, or you can go to the website. We have a little
I'll have it in the
thing
show
on
notes,
that.
yeah.
Those are the easiest ways. I'm out here in Jersey. I do a lot of local things. Classic Quiche, we're there once a month. Just booked something at a place called 170 West Inglewood, and we're going to be there once a month. Work with a few. Jaimoe's Jazz Band is at the Iridium once a month. I'm working with a band called The Wait. We do some things internationally. So it's I'm all over the place. And it's been a great life. Create your own life. All
right. Well, Reggie Pittman, thank you so much for being on the Create Your Own Life podcast today.
Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for hanging out with me and Reggie today. You can check him out over at www.reggiepittman.com, or you can get the show notes for this episode over at jeremyryanslate.com/308. And guys, as you heard it in the intro, I'm going to be doing a live in-person interview with James Altucher at Stand Up New York Comedy Club in New York City on October 17th. The interview is going to go from 6 to 7, and then there's going to be a live comedy show from 8 to 9:30, which is going to be included in the ticket. Tickets go for $50. The link is not up yet, so I have a waiting list for you guys over at jeremyryanslate.com/Altucher, where I'm also giving away 5 free copies of James's book, Choose Yourself. And in order to win the book, you must actually attend the event. So jeremyryanslate.com/Altucher. Guys, thanks for hanging out today, and rock on, and I'll catch you guys on Friday.
Now go out there and create your own life. Motivation may be great, but action is better. Get it done, my friends.